What do you think of Kon Knueppel's shooting performance in the game against Kentucky earlier this week? Having both Cooper Flagg and Khaman Maluach on the floor at the same time, and this 8-man rotation. It's a fill-in-the-blank Friday. We've got some topics to discuss right here on Locked On Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so exciting to have you here with us on Friday, November 15th, 2024. A double dip day here with Locked On Blue Devils. Had a great conversation earlier today about the Duke football team as they get set for a bye week. Now we got to focus on the basketball team ahead of the game against Wofford tomorrow. It's a fill-in-the-blank Friday. I've got Kevin Connelly and Jordan Mann on the program with us to recap the first week of action so far, and glad that you're going to get to be part of the program with us here today. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to us for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Take a moment to watch us on YouTube each and every day as well. If you like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's going to mean a whole lot to us. Duke is 2-1 to start the year, fresh off the loss against the Kentucky Wildcats. And now we're getting set for the game against Wofford, an opportunity for Duke to bounce back and to play much better than they did in the game earlier this week. So without further ado, the aforementioned good friends of the show, Kevin Connelly and Jordan Mann, are here with us, typically in different locations at different times. And now we're all coming together, a little Duke basketball power hour. So excited to have you guys here with us. Let's get right to it. Let's jump in. We've got some fill in the blanks. They're in the YouTube description down below. So we want to hear from you in the comments as well. We'll start with Kon Knueppel. Kon Knueppel going 5 of 20 from the field against UK is blank. And for me, I want to say that this is out of the ordinary. This is not something that we will see happen again in a lot of ways. One, I don't know that there's going to be a game where he attempts as many shots as he did against Kentucky, but I think the percentage is greatly going to improve once again, considering what we've seen through the first 3 weeks. So I want to say are out of the ordinary. What about you, Kevin?
You know, I'm going to go anomaly. I'm kind of right on the same page that you are. I think given everything we've seen in exhibitions in the first 2 games and everything we've heard about Kon, there's not going to be many 5 for 20 nights. I agree with you as well. I don't think he's going to be shooting the basketball 20 times in a single game, but I think it's an anomaly. Every shooter has a bad night, and I think just for him, this was a bad night with his first game under the bright lights in the Champions Classic.
Jordan?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. An outlier. I mean, 5 of 20. They talked about how the basketballs were different. Spalding and Mark Pope said they practiced with those for the last week. Clearly, it looked like Duke, Michigan State, and Kansas did not, because all 3 of those teams just could not shoot well from 3. It's definitely an outlier. And look, if Kon's going to shoot 20 times in a game, I'm fairly confident I'm very confident he makes 8 of 20, 10 of 20 at least. So 5 of 20 is just an outlier, and he's just going to keep pulling. And it's kind of similar to what McCain was last year, where he struggled early and then he just locked in. So an outlier.
Do you buy the basketball thing, Jordan? Because I haven't got a chance to talk about that much this week. But yeah, Spalding basketball was used. Kansas shot 29% from 3. Duke 17%. Michigan State shot 12%. And of course, it was Kentucky who shot 40%.
I do, not making that as an excuse, because Mark Pope did a great job of implementing that in his practice. Like, hey, different ball than we're accustomed to. Let's practice with it. And it showed. Like, they hit shots, and that's why they won the game. They made shots, and Duke did not. And it gives me PTSD from the D3 category, where we play with the rock, and our coach would never let us use the new rock basketballs until 2 days before the game. We're like, coach, we need these like a week or 2 before. And every time we shot those 2 days, it sounded like gunshots going off the rim, because it just sounded, the impact was incredible. So for personal experience, it does make a difference. with different basketballs and new basketballs. But like I said, shout out to Mark Pope for having his guys practice with the Spalding balls.
Yeah, let's get back to the Wilson world, I guess it is, because Spalding not too kind to Duke so far. All right, how about you go first with this one here, Jordan? Cooper Flagg's performance against Kentucky was blank.
It was exciting, right? Like, I mean, you see the double-double, 20-plus points, 12 rebounds. It was frustrating at the end, obviously, but look, we'll get into it more, I'm sure, but it just looked like he had tired legs, and he just made a couple of tired plays at the end of the game, and it's out of his control and kind of out of Shire's control with, Sion James having his injury and Maluach being hurt too. So that was frustrating, but yeah, exciting. Like, Cooper Flagg showed what he could do.
Kevin?
This probably isn't the best answer to this question. Can I say expected? I feel like everything that's been put on this kid's shoulders, he has delivered and then some ever since he stepped foot on campus. And I feel like every time he steps on the court, you expect that kind of greatness. I think that's why so many people were talking about the couple of turnovers at the end and kind of the disappointment that he wasn't able to come through, because it was the first time where we haven't seen it, whether it be the exhibitions or the first two games, and you kind of expect double performances out of him. So I know you shouldn't expect that type of performance, but I feel like even through 3 games, that's kind of what we come to expect with Cooper Flagg every time he steps on the court.
Kevin, we're not looking at each other's notes, but I had written down expected as well because it's just the billing. This is the game that everybody is watching. It's on ESPN. He's the number 1 pick in the 2025 draft. And yeah, he goes out and he scores 26 and 12. Pretty awesome. To your point, Jordan, hopefully the end of game scenarios, that's an outlier in itself. I think it will be, but pretty awesome to see what Flagg was able to do on the big stage with so many people watching.
Yeah. I mean, look, he was lights out. And when Duke needed a bucket, I know the last 2 possessions were what they were, but I mean, the massive 3-point play against Brea, Malik Brown getting an offensive rebound on Caleb Foster, front end 1-on-1, and Cooper Flagg got fouled, but still made the shot with no foul as it bounced around the rim. Like, he showed that he wasn't afraid of the moments. It just, unfortunately, at the end for him, when he tried to spin, just got away from him, and that just happens when you're a freshman in your 3rd game, and it's the national spotlight.
All right, it's fill in the blank Friday. Kevin, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, just one thing about Cooper Flagg is I know probably a lot of your viewers and listeners, JJ, have seen him, whether it's the AAU level, those games that get televised, or even high school and now at Duke. I mean, that's him. He's not afraid of the moment. And I think one thing that I'm interested to see going forward, and we'll talk about it because we're going to hit on the Wofford game, he doesn't lose. Like, if you look at his career, both playing high school basketball and AAU basketball, like he probably, you could count on 2 hands how many times he's lost a basketball game in his career. So I'm really interested to see how he bounces back from this, especially when he was the focal point of a lot of the conversation after the game with those 2 turnovers.
Let's go ahead and we'll take our next break. When we come back, I want to talk about some matchups that we saw on the floor and a couple of other things when this episode of Locked On Blue Devils continues here in just a moment. Locked On Blue Devils is brought to you by our friends over at Omaha Steaks. That's right, Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver that perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and so much more. Again, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Use promo code COLLEGE for an extra $30 off for our listeners and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. Omaha Steaks is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, let's keep rolling here. It is a fill-in-the-blank episode of Locked On Blue Devils today. JJ Jackson with Kevin Conley and Jordan Mann, some buddies within the Locked On Blue Devils community. Next up, Khaman, Maluach, and Cooper Flagg out there on the floor at the same time is blank. And I would say it's terrifying for the opposition because their presence alone, what they're doing, Khaman Maluach detonated a basketball in that Kentucky game. We saw Cooper Flagg have some blocks already this season. It's daunting for the other team, guys. Kevin.
Yeah, it really is. And my word would be dominant. So very similar to yours. And I look at both ends of the floor because when Maluach went out with the knee / cramping, whatever you want to attribute it to in the second half, the lob threat was taken away because we saw on a couple of occasions, whether it was Caleb Foster or Tyrese Proctor, even Kon did it a couple times, just throw it up. And JJ, I remember we specifically talked about one of those videos that came out over the summer and John Shire telling his guards, throw it up where he can get it. And I think he was telling Caleb Foster that back in the summer. And you saw it in this game. Throw it up because no one has his wingspan. No one has his size. If you put it up above the rim, he's going to go get it. And then even when you look defensively, him and Cooper Flagg, yes, there's still things to iron out. They're freshmen. They're still learning. But the one part about Cooper Flagg's game that doesn't get talked about a lot is his defense. He's a really good defender, and he got over aggressive a little bit in the second half with some help side defensive issues. But when these two are healthy and on the floor together at both sides, I think they could be a really dominant duo in the front court.
Yeah, I mean, I had dominant too. So basically, Kevin said exactly what I was thinking. I mean, look, you saw glimpses, especially in the first half, on both sides of the floor with those two guys together. And obviously with Khaman having the knee injury, a minute into the second half and just kind of derailed the whole flow of the game in the second half for Duke was frustrating because he's starting to click. He obviously has the wrist issue or the hand issue with his left hand. So that's already getting healthy. And then you see a little setback with the knee. You're like, dang, if this dude could just catch a break and Duke can
cramping.
Yeah, cramping. We got to figure something out. Like, do we need to donate like NIL pickle juice or something over to Cameron to get these guys not cramping? Because please, 3 games and 3 cramps. But dominant, like Khaman has surprised me with how well he's played in high level basketball. Like that was my one question mark with him was I was giving him benefit of the doubt with a learning curve the first couple months of the season, and then January we'd see this type of Khaman. But, I mean, he's already exceeded my expectations of how familiar and how up to speed he is with high-level D1 basketball.
I think you'd just be worried about the spacing in some regards, right, with Flagg and Maluach there to get – and it's not been an issue at all, which is great to see. And I think that just kind of speaks to how dangerous it is for the opposition. So, all right, let's go to the next one. We've got blank needs to be a more reliable shooter. Hate to put people on blast 1 week into the season, but that's what we do, boys. What are you thinking here, Jordan?
Yeah, I have to say Caleb Foster. I mean, Foster's a guy that when Roach was going to be the guy that was out and it was Proctor and Foster coming back, he needs to take that second level. He needs to get that second step or second level. And we saw it against Arizona State in the exhibition. I think he had 19, was 3 of 5 from 3, looked very comfortable, looking for a shot, filling a shot, and was 1 for 3 from 3 the first couple of games. Then I think 0 for 4, 0 for 5 against Kentucky, and they just weren't really close. And that's just a guy, again, I can also address that to the Spalding ball issue, but also, again, we need to see it, though, from Caleb Foster as one of the 2 returners on the team.
Yeah, I had 2 guys written down, and I was hoping you were going to take one so I could take the other. And Caleb Foster was one of the guys that I had written down for this, but I give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because he was a 40% three-point shooter last season. I think my answer could surprise a couple of people. I'm going to go Cooper Flagg. I say Cooper Flagg because
that's fair. Yeah,
he's 3 of 13 from three-point range this season. He was 0 of 4 against Maine, 2 of 4 against Army, and then 1 of 5 against Kentucky. And if he can't prove that he can consistently hit that three-point shot, defense are going to start to adjust, and they're going to leave him out there, and they're going to force him to make that three-pointer, and they're going to cramp the paint on him and not let him drive and get to that area of the floor where he's so comfortable at. So I go Cooper Flagg, and especially scouts are going to be looking at that three-point shot. You need to hit a three-point shot if you're going to be in the NBA, and obviously he's still probably going to be the projected number 1 pick, even if he doesn't shoot it that well this season. But a lot of people are going to be looking at his three-point shot and hoping it improves throughout the year.
And then, Jordan, if it doesn't really improve, then it is on Cooper Flagg to sort of make wiser decisions, I would think, and not force those looks if the shot's just not falling.
Yeah, to Kevin's point, I mean, that's a great point, is because there was twice, maybe actually 3 times in the Kentucky game, whether it was schematically or accidentally, a guy went under the screen and he drilled one of them, but the other 2 he missed. And it's just like, hey, if they're going to go under because you're so athletic and the bigs know that you have that step on them, you got to knock it down or at least keep them honest. And so to Kevin's point, yeah, like if he can hit that consistently, like 35% this year, then like that opens up where he wants to get in the middle of the floor and rise up and shoot those mid-range.
The 3 of us were known last season to call out Kyle Filipowski for some of the inconsistent outside shooting, and it worked more times than not. So maybe we're on to something here, guys. Maybe we're on to something. And these recent performances are a bit of an outlier. All right, let's take one more timeout, and then we'll start to wrap things up. We'll preview the Wofford game and more on the other side of this break here on this Friday episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Our show today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Get ready to tackle all of the NFL action this weekend with FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Okay, here we go. We're talking all things Duke basketball with Jordan Mann and Kevin Conley. We've got a fill-in-the-blank Friday. I'm JJ Jackson. All right, next up, we've got an 8-man rotation for Duke basketball is blank this season. I wanted to go outside the box here. I'm looking for a word that I didn't feel like you guys had. And so I settled on customary, because this is what we've been used to seeing. And I think in some ways we figured it would be this way. Hopefully, as the season progresses, maybe there's more of an opportunity for Darren Harris, Isaiah Evans. Pat Ngamba dressed out and looked to be, in uniform for the game against the Wildcats. Who knows if he's close to return? But, customary is what I settled on. Jordan, you go first.
I have expected. I know that might not be the answer a lot of Duke fans want to hear, but I've said it on this show. I've said it on my show. Like 8-man rotations, just you need to have, like, when Duke plays Wofford and these other teams that they play like Maine and stuff, it's fine to go 9-10 because you want to see these guys get confidence because a Sion James might get knocked out of a game. You need a Darren Harris to steal you 4 minutes. Like that is needed. But in terms of the big games, 8-man rotation is expected. And like I said, my argument is always like you look at March, if NC State can go 7-8-man rotation with DJ Burns being one of those guys, they win 10 games in 20 days, then anybody can win with 8 guys. So that is always going to be my argument because DJ Burns ran the table last year.
I had a feeling you guys were going to do that. JJ, you said customary. Jordan, you said expected. I was going to say typical, but I'm going to change just because we're all doing synonyms here. I'm going to change it. I'm going to say it's worrisome because I think, as you guys said, and a lot of Duke fans have this idea is, the rotation is going to shrink once March comes. Coach K did it. Shire has done it in the first couple of seasons, but it's not really supposed to be like this now. I think there was definitely lanes for Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans to get in the game, especially in the first half, maybe get their feet wet. And if one of them plays well, you can throw them out there in the second half, especially when Cooper Flagg picked up a couple of fouls. And I think he sat for the final 6 minutes. Now I get what Shire was doing, right? You're building upon your lead. You get it up to 9. You don't want to put somebody else in there that hasn't been in the game and Kentucky is able to make a run and you only go up 4 or 5 at halftime. So I get what he was trying to do and keeping the guys out there that had it working. But I would say for right now, specifically, you're playing in a big game and you have 3 more big games coming up in the next couple of weeks. I would say only trusting 8 guys is worrisome. And then obviously we're still waiting to see what happens with Sion James. I know there's no official word, but kind of based on everything you see, you have to imagine he's going to miss some sort of time.
So 3 games into the year, 3 games left in the non-conference that are against, big Power 4 schools, however you want to call them, Arizona, Kansas, and Auburn. That means outside of that, we're looking at Wofford, Seattle, Incarnate Word, and George Mason. Is that it, Jordan? Because then it is those big non-conference games. Then it is ACC play. Is it really just, 4 more game opportunities to give the bench more time to expand?
No, I think there will be ACC games where you'll see the bench expand. And to Kevin's point, worrisome is a good word too. Like I said, expected. But to his point is Malik Brown played like the last 4 minutes in the first half with 3 fouls because there were no depth at the 5. Like I think Maluach might have had 2 fouls. Yep. For whatever reason. He wasn't in the end of the half.
And Cooper had 2.
Cooper had 2. You had to sacrifice Malik Brown in there with 3 because we didn't have any depth. Like with Big Pat coming back, obviously he was active, but was he really active? We don't know. But that's worrisome to where, hey, you're 1 injury away from talking about the Final Four expectations to possibly derailing your season because you don't have that depth at certain parts of the lineup. Anything
to add there, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Jordan said it perfectly. Big Pat was active, but I don't think he was ever getting in this game. I could see him playing on Saturday against Wofford if he really is truly active. And again, you're a twisted ankle away from being down to 1 big guy, so it's going to be on the coaching staff to get Big Pat ready to go. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit for a reason. You need depth, and we talked all off season about how deep this team could be, and they could play 10, 11 guys, and then your first big test of the season, you play 8, and it really becomes 7 because Sion's out for most of the second half. So, I think that's a thing to really get cleaned up.
What I'm hearing is that we're a few ankle twists away from Countdown to Craziness intro MVP Stanley Borden getting some run out there on the floor in the post.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Here's our last fill in the blank that we've got here today. The most important thing to shore up before the Arizona game next Friday is blank, Kevin.
I'm going to say conditioning because you look at the second half and this team looked gassed, looked like they had no legs. And even I think
that's so good
for Cooper Flagg on those final 2 possessions, specifically the first one, when he turned it over with 26 and a half to go coming out of the timeout in a tied game. I think his legs were gone and he was going to give you everything he had. But if Duke was able to get that game into overtime, I still don't think they win because I don't think they had anything left in them. So I think playing a game like this is good for them. You play Wofford, you get a victory. And then you still have some time before you head out west for 2 big ones. But I think the conditioning is going to be big, especially going on the road, another environment. I don't have Arizona's schedule right in front of me, but I think this could be their first big game of the season. So maybe they're sucking wind a little bit early in the first half, and Duke knows how to condition themselves and how to keep their legs for the second half.
Kevin, that's a great point because that was going to be one of my reasonings too. Because conditioning, like you said, I mean, I've seen people talk about Duke didn't make subs last 10 minutes, and I get it. I understand. But with Caleb Foster, I think he only played like 20. He played like high 20s minutes. And if he's fatigued in high 20s minutes, that's not great. It's not a great look for Duke basketball when we've had 3 cramps in 3 games. And so Kevin hit the nail on the head there, like conditioning. And mine will be just defense communication. Like there were guard-to-guard switches that Kentucky was slipping throughout the game that led to layups. One was pivotal in the last 3 minutes of the game where it looks like it's a guard-to-guard and Duke's doing a switch. And with Duke switching, Kentucky slipped it and opened up a passing lane for a layup. And they started the game with that. Amari Williams hit a guy back door, and they ended the game basically doing the same thing. So just defense communications, especially by the wings, needs to be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, I think conditioning is another good thing to look at with this Duke basketball team before that Arizona game. Want to make sure their feet are under them. Hopefully a good shooting performance is coming back in Duke's way. And then just, again, trying to tinker with the rotation maybe to see if more guys could get an opportunity out there to earn some playing time. Tomorrow, Duke is back in action. They're taking on Wofford. Wofford is 1-2 on the season. Their only win is against a school I've never even heard of, guys. They lost to Lipscomb and Presbyterian were their 2 losses, just 1 win. I don't know that I'm missing much here on this Wofford team, right? Fletcher McGee's not running out for the Terriers.
Yeah, the days of Fletcher McGee are gone. So kind of what we talked about in the depth. I think Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans should get upwards of 15 minutes. I don't know if that's going to happen in this game, but with Sion James likely not available, I want to see Evans and Harris out there for extended periods of time.
I mean, Kevin's should just be Kevin and me have the same brain right now because, yeah, Duke's depth. I want to see Duke's depth. If Pat's really ready to go, I don't think he's in game shape, but hey, give him a media timeout. Give him 4 minutes, see what he can do, and rest Khaman, and then rest Malik. And look, Duke had a very draining and emotional loss against Kentucky. We can regroup by going 10 deep. Just see if Sion doesn't play, obviously that changes things. But yeah, open up that bench, and it should be a bounce back win that is a non-sweat, hopefully, knock on wood.
I'm curious to see what it looks like if Sion's not available, right? There's obviously the Patrick Ngamba dynamic if he'll be available on the interior for the Duke team. But what does that exactly look like if it is more run for Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans? When we think of Sion James, at least for me specifically, I'm thinking of the defense and intensity that he brings first. And you're asking a freshman to kind of pick up on the same things that a very experienced player and Sion James has been doing. Like, that's the one big thing for me against Wofford is how do they step up if there is no Sion James?
Yeah. One thing I just want to add, Arizona does have a big game. I looked up their schedule. They play actually tonight on the road against Wisconsin. So they play at Wisconsin, and then they get a week off, and they play Duke Friday night at home. So they would have a big game underneath their belts before they play the Blue Devils. And
hopefully they lose next Friday against this Duke basketball team, and we see Duke back in the win column. Guys, this has been a whole lot of fun. Fill in the blank Friday, getting set for the Wofford game tomorrow. Really appreciate all the time that you guys have spent with me on the program. We'll have to make this more of a routine thing, bringing you guys back on here together. Jordan, tell us about all the work that you've got going on and how people can support you.
Yeah, the Big J and Little J show app. It's on Apple and Spotify. YouTube is JMan_, where my YouTube comments are currently being flooded by Kentucky fans after my film breakdown previewing the Duke Kentucky game. And Twitter's at JMan's Takes. So I am looking forward to breaking down the Duke Kentucky game and looking forward to more Big Blue Nation blowing me up.
There you go. And Kevin, what about you? How can we support you?
Yeah, come read us every day over at balldurham.com. We got a lot on Duke football, obviously, and then all over Duke basketball. Kind of covered that Kentucky loss from start to finish, and then obviously we'll be all over the rest of the season too.
Thanks, guys, for being here. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, brother.
All right, that's Kevin Conley and Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. How fun was that? 2 shows in one day. Got a chance to talk about Duke basketball with their game coming up against Wofford and have a fun little fill-in-the-blank Friday. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.